Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we are about to embark on a really fun, highly structured, globe-trotting journey into some of history's most fascinating anomalies. We're going to explore dense jungles, peer at ancient maps, and dive deep underwater to look at evidence that is actively challenging basically everything we thought we knew about the human story. I've designed this explainer to take us step by step through the data, the discoveries, and the really intense debates surrounding our ancient past. So here's the massive central mystery we're unpacking today. Is human history older than we think? For a long time, the timeline of human civilization seemed pretty fixed, cut and dry, right? But recent archaeological surprises and some highly debated alternative theories are actually asking us to reconsider. Did an advanced human civilization exist long before our established timelines? Well, let's map out exactly why this question is being asked. Section 1, Mesoamerica's earliest masterminds. Okay, let's dive into this. Our first stop takes us into the deep, humid jungles of Mesoamerica, well before the famous empires of the Maya and the Aztecs. We're looking at a culture known as the Olmecs, who are frequently referred to as the mother culture of Central America. Now take a look at this number, 50 tons. Just wrap your head around that for a second. Back in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Western explorers in Mesoamerica stumbled upon these massive stone heads carved from single blocks of basalt. Some of these colossal sculptures stood 9 feet tall and weighed up to 50 tons. That's like the weight of 10 full-grown elephants. But what truly puzzled early explorers was that these incredible feats of engineering featured what they interpreted as supposedly non-Native American features. For decades, they were kind of treated as bizarre oddities, mainly because historians just didn't have a framework for an advanced civilization predating the Maya. Actually, it wasn't until Matthew Stirling's Smithsonian-backed expeditions in the 1940s that the true scale of the Olmecs was revealed. Major cities like San Lorenzo and La Venda date back as far as 1200 BCE. Stirling's team literally had to hack through dense jungle to find early pyramids, sophisticated central planning, ceremonial axes, and these really extensive jade trade networks. This wasn't just some basic settlement, right? It was a highly organized, foundational, complex society, capable of moving multi-ton boulders across incredibly difficult terrain. Now, this brings us to a super fascinating intersection of accepted history and alternative theories. Mainstream archaeology generally views the brilliant Maya civilization as the inheritors of Olmec knowledge, including their profound understanding of astronomy and complex mathematics, like the concept of zero. However, alternative theorists, most notably Graham Hancock, point to the staggering precision of the Maya long count calendar and their architectural celestial alignments. Hancock suggests that rather than a linear inheritance just from the Olmecs, both of these cultures might have inherited their advanced astronomical knowledge from a much older, lost civilization. And so this is the really provocative question we kind of have to ask ourselves. We have concrete Mesoamerican artifacts that showcase incredible, sudden bursts of architectural and mathematical genius. Did they figure this all out independently in the jungle? Or is it a surviving legacy, like a fingerprint of a much older global ancestor whose memory was just wiped from history? Let's move to this timeline and see how this builds. The timeline of the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis is the absolute cornerstone of Graham Hancock's theory. Around 12,800 years ago, the Earth was emerging from the Ice Age when it suddenly plunged back into a dramatic deep freeze. Hancock, citing ice core samples and geological evidence, hypothesizes that a comet impact triggered a massive cataclysm. We're talking global floods, extreme climate shifts, and a mass extinction. In his view, this event obliterated a globally advanced Ice Age civilization, leaving only scattered survivors to pass down fragments of their knowledge to places like ancient Mesoamerica. Section 2, the Amazon's hidden metropolis. While the Younger Dryas cataclysm remains a fiercely debated hypothesis, let's transition back to hard, undeniable archaeological surprises that are rewriting history books today. We're heading into the densely forested Amazon basin. For the longest time, the mainstream view was that the Amazon was just an untouched, pristine wilderness before European contact. But consider this mind-boggling estimated population: 30,000 to 50,000 people living in the Cujucuco complex in Brazil around 800 AD. Utilizing aerial surveys and advanced LiDAR technology, which kind of acts like an archaeological X-ray that can see right through the jungle canopy, researchers discovered not an untouched forest, but a massive engineered metropolis spanning 50 square kilometers. So the crucial point is, how on earth did they feed tens of thousands of people in a rainforest that's actually known for having notoriously poor soil for traditional farming? Well, the answer is terra preta. This is an eco-friendly, highly fertile, man-made super soil created by ancient Amazonians. It proves these indigenous societies possessed incredibly advanced environmental management skills. They didn't just survive in the jungle, they actively molded it to their needs. To really drive this home, let's look at this breakdown. Across the Amazon, we are finding staggering evidence of massive, sophisticated societies. At Cuicugu, they built precise roads perfectly aligned with cardinal directions, plus complex hydraulic canals. Over on Marajo Island, a culture thrived that built massive 10-meter-high earthen mounds just to escape seasonal floods. In Santarém, we see culturally diverse, masterfully crafted pottery that hints at vast trade networks. And across the whole region, LiDAR has mapped over 450 massive geometric geoglyphs stretching for kilometers. The big takeaway here? The Amazon was basically a curated, man-made garden cultivated by highly sophisticated indigenous societies. Section 3, a lost global civilization. These incredible revelations in the Americas bring us back to our broader mystery. If civilizations were capable of such vast, unrecognized achievements, is it possible that separate ancient societies were actually connected by global maritime networks long before Columbus? Let's examine the wildly fascinating anomaly of the Piri-Reis map, compiled in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral. This map includes parts of Europe, North Africa, and the Brazilian coast. But what makes it so controversial is that it appears to show highly accurate longitudes, and even more shockingly, what some interpret as an ice-free Antarctic coastline. The problem with that? Well, accurately tracking longitude at sea required a marine chronometer, and that's an invention that didn't exist until the late 18th century. Oh, and Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1818. So how do we interpret this? Let's look at both sides impartially. The mainstream historical view is that the accuracy is totally coincidental. The longitudes are exaggerated, and the Antarctic landmass is simply a misdrawn South American coastline, or maybe an imaginative addition, which was pretty common in 16th century cartography. The alternative view, however, championed by theorists like Hancock, is that map makers like Piri-Reis were working off surviving source documents from an advanced, lost Ice Age maritime culture that had already accurately charted the entire globe. Section 4, Riddles of Ancient Egypt. To truly understand the intensity of this debate over humanity's timeline, we really must transition to the sands of Egypt. This is where the clash between established timelines and alternative theories reaches its absolute peak. Now, what's really interesting about this is the staggering, almost incomprehensible mathematical and architectural precision of the Great Pyramid of Giza. We're talking about engineering the impossible. An ancient structure weighing 6 million tons, made of 2.5 million individual stone blocks. Whoever built it had an enormous knowledge of advanced mathematics, intricately incorporating pi and the golden ratio, and aligning this massive structure perfectly to true north. Let's be real. Even today, with modern cranes and lasers, replicating this would be a monumental, nearly impossible task. Then there's the Great Sphinx, which sits right at the center of a massive chronological dispute. The mainstream Egyptology timeline dictates that the Sphinx was constructed roughly 4,500 years ago during the Old Kingdom. But proponents of the alternative Kemet's theory point to heavy vertical water erosion on the Sphinx enclosure walls. They argue that this type of erosion could only have been caused by thousands of years of heavy torrential rainfall. And here's the kicker. That's a climate condition that last existed on the Giza Plateau over 12,000 years ago during the Younger Dryas. They suggest this proves the monument predates the aridity of the Sahara Desert entirely. This alternative timeline feeds directly into a fascinating concept known as the Hall of Records. Originally popularized by the American clairvoyant Edgar Cayce and echoed by modern alternative researchers today, the Hall of Records is hypothesized to be an ancient time capsule hidden deep beneath the Sphinx. Now, while mainstream archaeology has found no evidence of this, for alternative theorists, it remains the ultimate hunt for humanity's lost knowledge. A repository they believe holds the cosmic data and technologies of the survivors of that Ice Age cataclysm. Section 5, Secrets Beneath the Sea. We're leaving the realm of hypothesis now for our final destination. Let's explore the undeniable, tangible wonders of underwater archaeology, where entirely lost worlds are literally being brought back to the surface. And this brilliantly illustrates just how much history has been swallowed by the earth. This is the sunken port of Thonis Heracleon off the coast of Egypt. For centuries, it was entirely lost, until French underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudio used advanced sonar to rediscover it. The sheer scale is just breathtaking. Divers found 64 ancient shipwrecks in a state of incredible preservation, 700 massive maritime anchors, staggering 16-foot-tall granite statues of pharaohs and gods, and troves of gold coins from vast trade networks. This was a thriving 12th century BC commercial and religious hub that simply vanished beneath the waves. Thonis Heracleon wasn't the only casualty of the deep either. Cleopatra's palace, located in the royal quarter of Alexandria from the Ptolemaic period, also sits underwater. While Thonis Heracleon was a bustling trade hub, Cleopatra's palace was the absolute epicenter of political power. It blended Egyptian, Greek, and Roman cultures into this dazzling, opulent display of architectural mastery before it too was lost to the sea. It all comes down to a simple truth. You have to look at all the conditions that have led to their submergence. Natural forces are constantly reshaping our planet, right? Earthquakes, the subsidence of the Nile silts, and dramatic shifts in sea levels have submerged entire cities. The Earth is a dynamic, shifting canvas, constantly burying and hiding these incredible pieces of human history just out of our sight. So I want to leave you with a final question ringing in your ears today. From the 50-ton Olmec heads in the jungle, to LiDAR mapping forgotten Amazonian metropolises, to the water-eroded Sphinx and sunken cities in the Mediterranean, are these mysteries just isolated anomalies in an otherwise linear human story? Or are we slowly brushing the dirt away from the scattered fragments of a forgotten global legacy? The search for our past is far from over, and every new piece of data forces us to keep digging. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this sparks your curiosity to go learn more.